together. Whether it was exchanging account information, to sharing GMD files between each other, creators have always found a way to make it work. A good majority of fully fleshed out levels you see nowadays are actually collabs, which goes to show how much of the ways of early mega collabs influenced the game in this day and age. Depending on the scale of the project, and due to the inevitable setbacks that come with working together with large groups of people, collabs can often extend anticipated deadlines set at the start and take much longer than once thought to. Some collabs take weeks, some take months, and some of them can even take over a year to finish. Crazy, right? Well, if you thought so, then you're probably not ready for today's topic. The level that we are going to be talking about today was highly anticipated for many years. This project met the likes of dozens of talented creators and experienced a plethora of changes to itself. Don't believe me? Here is a side-by-side of the level in its earliest stage versus the final product today. And don't even get me started on the amount of differences seen over time. If you haven't figured it out yet, the level that we are going to be taking a trip down memory lane with is one of the most visually and aesthetically pleasing top extreme demons we've ever had, and to this day is still one of the hardest levels beaten in the game, after taking a staggering 6 years to finish being made, with its high intensity atmosphere mixed with an upbeat and positive vibe while holding some of the most challenging raw gameplay. This is the history of Anathema. But we can't just dive straight into talking about Anathema itself, no. Anathema isn't just a standalone level. If you weren't aware, Anathema is actually the 4th installment in a sequence of levels called the Dedication series. And this all started with just one small up-and-coming creator, Nicrodox. The Dedication series first began back on March 26, 2016, with the release of the first level in the Tetralogy. Looking at this level nowadays, it's crazy how this spawned from this. I mean, look at that gameplay, man, it's beautiful. I was trying to branch out into more styles of creating, and at the time, I was amazed by people like Galvatron, Sirpunch, and Funny Game for their ability to make effects. Specifically, Galvatron at the time was dabbling a lot in sinusoidal effects that created crazy illusions. Looking at some of Galvatron's work from the time, the elements of inspiration are definitely there. Prior to the verification video of Dedication, Nicrodox had actually uploaded a test video called Grayscale, where they showed off some of the designs that people like Galvatron were working with. Sadly, this remained as nothing more than a demo level, but the project was quickly recycled with some of its parts being present in their other levels, such as Red Roses and Dedication itself. The reason for the level series being centered around its iconic RGB color palette was partially an accident. Nicrodox actually had some experience with background design, so they already had a vision for what they wanted the color scheme to be, a primary color and a neutral color. Nicro couldn't settle on just a singular primary color, so they ended up just going with all of them, which would end up being the perfect outcome many years down the road. Nicrodox had been playing a lot of feature tab levels at this time, hence why the gameplay is extremely easier compared to what was to come. They noticed the UFO was not relatively present at the climax of many of these levels, and to stand out, Nicro did exactly that, a trend that would carry on. The choice of music played a huge role in the series as well. The Living Tombstone has a very distinct style in his earlier songs, and it made it so you could very reliably split up the song into sections. At each section, I naturally like to switch up the game mode, and there we have it. Without realizing it, they just made the complete framework for the entire level series. From the decoration, the color palette, the gameplay choices, the music, everything. However, when talking about the backstory behind Dedication, Nicrodox noted that these rules became very fundamental to them, saying, "If it wasn't broken, I didn't fix it." It's important to keep a mental note of this because things changed quite a bit when we get to Anathema, and following these rules 100% of the time could not be the case anymore. Since Dedication essentially became the base for the rest of the series, Allegiance followed this with no problem. This time, we were met with a harder, better, greater variety of gameplay and an improvement in decoration quality. The name was a vague synonym of the original Dedication, but it was not thought hard on much back in the day. Allegiance first previewed on YouTube on April 22nd, 2016, and was finished and verified just 2 months later on June 14th. If you notice the dates in the video, Dedication and Allegiance were released no more than 3 months apart from one another, which goes to show the absolute scale the overall series found itself in later on. Though, regarding the gameplay, Allegiance was only intended on being an easy demon, which we can see nowadays did not come to fruition. This can be directly attributable to the fact that Nicrodox was becoming familiar with the community surrounding the demon list. And since the list seemingly had no levels using the UFO at the drop, they just decided to buff Allegiance to be list-worthy, where it would be verified by Arlol and placed at number 12 on the demon list on January 17th, 2017, As a surprise to Microdox, Allegiance was a huge success for them at the time, only inspiring them to create more. After Allegiance was verified, they actually did not intend to keep creating levels in the Dedication series. Allegiance was meant to be one and done, just a single sequel to Dedication. But after enough time passing, and a small update coming out, Microdox would move forward with creating the sequel to Allegiance, Renevent, 7 months later. While Renevent was being made, Nycro actually started developing the early layouts for Anathema simultaneously, marking the first instances of Anathema's existence on April 13, 2017. Funnily enough, this caused quite some confusion among outside fans, since no one knew which level would be finished first, not even Microdox. This means that in some alternate timeline, this is what we would have gotten instead. Because Renevent began production first, this was the deciding factor for Nycro to go all gas, no brakes on Renevent and finish it first. At this stage of my creating history, I was starting to feel some pretty intense imposter syndrome due to the success of Allegiance. This would only lead them to sink into a rut, trying to grasp for inspiration on Renevent. Posting previews of the level only made it worse, since Nycro was feeling outside pressure from the people patiently waiting for the third installment to be completed. They would end up taking a break from finishing Renevent for quite a while, and decorated the entirety of Hard Machine in the meantime. This would help a little bit in the short term, but they ended up just hating themselves for even starting Renevent in the first place. Alright, now's a good time to pause for a second. During these events of Renevent being semi in limbo, a semi-known player and victor of the top 1 Bloodlust by the name of Rory would reach out to Microdox at the time regarding Anathema, asking whether they could verify it. Nycro was hesitant at first, since they had a lineup of promising players at the time in hopes of getting one of them to accept the verification. But with Rory coming out of nowhere with a run of 76 to 100 on Anathema's early layout, this blew Microdox away and easily secured a spot as a standalone verifier. Why is this relevant, you may ask? You'll see in just a second. Picking up right where we left off with Renevent in its purgatory state, all of this disdain grew and grew within Microdox great enough that they eventually snapped and decorated the entire last 60% of Renevent in just 3 hours on around October 8th of 2017. And it shows if you look at the deco. So many copied and pasted structures, so many lazy decisions, I was just so mad that I wanted it done. With Renevent now completed, Microdox was now trying to figure out who would be the verifier among these options. Details here get a bit harder to track due to a lot of information being lost to time, but the level would be in possession by Noctifly and Flex, but finally would end up going to Aquiver, who got a run of 65% on the level in January of 2019. Somewhere along the line, at one point the level would be passed on to Wuxi, verifier of Lucid Nightmares. In September of 2019, things seemed very promising with frequent and impressive updates regarding the verification with runs like 51% and 42 to 100. But on September 28th, 2019, Wuxi would reach out to a certain player asking if they'd be willing to be the backup verifier for Renevent, and that player would be none other than Rory. Yeah, fun fact, Rory was actually the verifier of Anathema before they were the official verifier for Renevent. Not long after Rory and Wuxi's talk about backup verifier, Wuxi's mental state came crashing down and ended up being too emotionally unstable to move forth with the verification of Renevent, thus landing into the hands of Rory, where they would verify it on November 10th of 2019.
I beat it! Yeah!
It's all connected.
It's oxygen action.
Hi, I'm Matt with RC Willey. With over 90 years of trusted service, we're excited to bring the beauty and convenience of permanent outdoor lighting to your home. It's a true game changer. Forget the hassle of tangled wires, climbing ladders, or paying for installation year after year. With permanent lighting, you set it up once and enjoy it for years, maintenance free. We install Owello commercial grade lights. These LEDs are built to last, rated for 100,000 hours of use. That's more than 22 years of nightly build. And during the day, thanks to our expert installation, they're practically invisible. The best part? Complete customization. With the mobile app, you can choose from over 16 million colors. Celebrate holidays, game days, or any special moment. Just tap and go. You can even schedule your lighting up to a year in advance. Permanent lighting adds beauty, curb appeal, and a little fun to your home year-round. And with RC Willey's flexible financing, including low and zero interest plans, it's never been easier or more affordable. Ready to make your home shine? Click now to schedule your free consultation, and let's get started.
Now, we are all caught up.
Let's go.
It was crucial that we covered as much as we did regarding the backstory on the Dedication series in order to get a full picture of the production way back when. But finally, here we are, with Anathema. Or at least in its early stages. Yeah, we are still a long way away from the final version. But here it is, just a little baby. During almost all of Renovit's building process, Anathema was just sitting in the background with a thick layer of dust over it. And basically all of the struggles Nigrodox had undergone with Renovit were just transferred over to Anathema. Remember how Allegiance was originally supposed to finalize the Dedication series all the way back in June of 2016? Well, now it's November of 2019, and the absurd amount of pressure to give the community one hell of a grand finale was just too much to bear. Dedication, Allegiance, and Renovit had all been solo projects, and with the addition of Nigro's confidence being the lowest it had ever been, trying to output a level of this scale felt nothing short of impossible. In addition to this astronomical burden, Nigro would often be offered help with the revival of the level, and outright refuse all of it. As time went on, people just gave up asking, and Anathema was eventually seen as a dead project. At one point, it was thought that this would just be lost to time and fade away into darkness, a failed top extreme. On screen right now is the last preview we would receive of Anathema for nearly 2 years. But don't worry, here is where things start to get interesting. During Anathema's hiatus, a lot would be brewing in the background regarding the level. Earlier, I mentioned that Rory was given the verification rights to Anathema, set to make it the hardest level in the game. But with Nigrodox being far from active on GD, and even getting their original Discord account banned around early 2020, Rory was not too keen on letting Anathema go out with the whimper. Since Anathema had so much momentum going for itself, Rory attempted to revive Anathema with the help of creator Jakob Nugget. On screen right now are 3 parts of Rory and Jakob's version of Anathema that were lost to time, each uploaded on July 20th, 2020, so this is right smack in the middle of Anathema's dead period. And you can immediately tell the difference comparing this decoration style to Nigrodox's signature style for the series. Just at face value, these parts feel too static and alienated to the charm of the Dedication series. And sure, these are very outdated, but even for the time, these just didn't remain very faithful to the original. They may have been less than ideal, but in the grand scheme of things, Anathema was back. Not even knowing it at the time, Rory and Jakob were probably making the best decision possible by making an unauthorized version of Anathema. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, this new version of Anathema was made without permission of Nigrodox, leading to the forthcoming events. Around the same time in 2020, talented creator It's Hybrid was becoming a wider known name in the community with uploads of their decorations from iconic upcoming levels and hosting impressive mega collabs. At the time, Nigrodox's Anathema, the official version, was